Last year, I spent New Year's Eve binge reading A Little Life. So naturally, I'm doing it again. Hey guys, it's Julie. As you can guess from the title of this video, I'm gonna be rereading A Little Life. Why do I hate myself, you ask? Well, we don't have time to get into that. So last year, I spent New Year's Eve most of the day just reading A Little Life and trying to finish it before the end of the year so I could get it in my reading count on Goodreads, you know? And it was so stressful. So I'm not gonna be rereading all of it today because I don't hate myself that much. But yeah, it might have been a stressful experience, but A Little Life is now one of my favorite novels. It's tied for my favorite novel next to Call Me By Your Name. I adore it. I absolutely adore it. Is it the most devastating and painful book that I've ever read? Yes. I've never cried that much reading a book. I've never felt that triggered reading a book. It's not an easy book, and if one is to read it, definitely look up the trigger warnings because oh boy, is there a lot. But I love it. I love it so much. The characters reside in my heart so deeply. I think about, ever since I read that book last year, I've thought about it every day. That's the kind of book it is. It gets into your soul and you can't forget it. You can't forget it. It's a book that you will, I guarantee you read this book, you will never forget it. It's impossible. The characters, especially Jude. I love Jude so much. And Willem. And JB and Malcolm and Harold. It is so captivating. The writing, the prose of it is amazing. The New York setting, the way that it's like not set in a specific time, feels like it could be set in any time. The depiction of friendship, of life over years, and you know, at its core, A Little Life is a story about trauma and the lifelong effects of it, and that is hard to read. It is very hard to read. It's the hardest thing I've ever read. But it is just truly amazing. It is so amazing. I've never read anything like it, and I never will. I felt like this whole year has been gearing up towards me rereading this book. I don't know why. After I read it, I spent a time where I would just watch any interview that I could with Hanya. They'd be like hours long. I'm just watching interviews about A Little Life. I've been really wanting to reread it and take my time. I rushed so much last year, and I still loved it, but I want to take my time, which is probably going to be like a couple days, or a few days. But I want to take my time with it, and what better day to start than the day that I read it all last year, New Year's Eve. So this is A Little Life rereading vlog. Onward to pain we go. Hello. It is Sunday, and I haven't read much. I've just read to like the second chapter, not really chapter, but like section, which is on page 30. I will be reading more today. And one thing that I've really noticed is the details. Anya pays such attention to details of little things. You know, like why the group calls JB's co-worker Deanne, or, you know, how their bunk beds were situated, you know, like the attention to detail. And it can be even smaller things than that, things that that really don't affect the story at all, but they just give you even further insight into the characters. It makes the characters feel more real. And that's what's so brilliant about it. You really feel like these characters are real people. Another thing that I really noticed is how seamlessly she flows in between time. It'll take one thing to bring you back into the past and to give some backstory or to dive into a scene from the past. The way that the writing flows in between present and the past is so amazing. You can't even tell. You can't even tell. So I'm gonna go read some more. I hope to at least get to the Postman today. That's my goal. If I could get even further, that would be great. But I don't want to rush it, you know? As long as I finish this within the week, I'll be good. So, I have just finished part 1 of rereading A Little Life. Finished Les Bernard Street, and reading this first part again, it feels like coming home. These characters feel like real people. They feel like people that I know and love, and it feels like coming home to them. And that's what this first part does, is it gets into the details of these characters. It lays out who they are, their backstories, their jobs, their conflicts. It tells you who they are, and to the point that they feel like real people, except for Jude. And that's on purpose. We're told about Willem, JB, and Malcolm, all about their lives, and you're told who they are. From the very beginning, you were told who they are. But you're only told enough about Jude to be intrigued. His backstory is mysterious, and that's the point. So far, I am already tabbing this so much more than I did the first time. I even made a key. That is not something I have ever done for a book that wasn't for class. Pink is for quotes, blue is for things to pay attention to / foreshadowing, purple is just funny little things for me, and green is special moments of friendship and love. I can show you some of the pink, some quotes that I really like. The other aspect of those weekday evening trips he loved was the light itself, how it filled the train like something living as the cars rattled across the bridge, how it washed the weariness from his seatmates' faces and revealed them as they were when they first came to the country. When they were young and America seemed conquerable, he'd watch that kind light suffuse the car like syrup, watch it smudge furrows from foreheads, slick gray hairs into gold, gentle the aggressive shine from the sheep fabrics into something lustrous and fine, and then the sun would drift, the car rattling uncaringly away from it, and the world would return to its normal sad shapes and colors, the people to the normal sad state, a shift as cruel and abrupt as if it had been made by a sorcerer's wand. Here's another one. Oh my god. When did pursuing your ambitions cross the line from brave into foolhardy? How did you know when to stop? In earlier, more rigid, less encouraging, and ultimately more helpful decades, things would be clearer. You would stop when you turned 40, or when you got married, or when you had kids, or after 5 years, or 10 years, or 15, and then you would go get a real job, and acting in your dreams for a career in it would recede into the evening, and melting into history as quiet as a baguette of ice sliding into a warm bath. Oh my god. Here's another. And so he had begun his adulthood, the last 3 years spent bobbing from bank to bank in a muck-bottom pond, the trees above and around him blotting out the light, making it too dark for him to see whether the lake he was in opened up into a river, or whether it was contained, its own small universe in which he might spend years, decades, his life, searching, fumbling for a way out that didn't exist, had never existed. This one might be my favorite so far. But this was part of the deal when you were friends with Jude. He knew it, Andy knew it, they all knew it. You let things slide that your instincts told you not to. You scooted around the edges of your suspicions. You understood that proof of your friendship lay in keeping your distance and accepting what was told you, and turning and walking away when the door was shut in your face instead of trying to force it open. It's so good. And I have one green thing tabbed, which is when the four of them are on the roof before the New Year's party. That's just a scene that like really sticks in my mind. Whenever I think of the beginning section of A Little Life, I think of that rooftop scene. I didn't cry. I think I teared up the first time I read the first section for a certain reason. You'll probably know if you read it, but I did not cry this time. But into The Postman we go. So it's Tuesday now, and I have just finished part 2, The Postman, and this section is, of course, about Jude. In this section, we start to delve into who Jude is and his backstory in his life, and this section, I would say, is the groundwork for his story, because, oh boys, there's so much more. There are some parts that are really hard to read. There are certain descriptions of, slight spoiler warning, the descriptions of Jude's self-harm is so graphic and so hard to read. You know, as we delve into Jude, and it is hard, there were some really amazing happy moments, I would say, in this part. Well, one, we get to meet Harold and Julia and Andy in this section, and these are all people that are really important in Jude's life, and that's really great. There's also this moment, there's this certain thing that happens for Jude, and it is just the best, and it's amazing to see something good happen for him, because he deserves happiness. I just wish I could take his pain away. So I'm gonna read some quotes that I liked. Oh, I think about this all the time because it is so true. He was astonished but relieved by how easily they accepted that, and grateful too for their self-absorption. None of them really wanted to listen to someone else's story anyway. They only wanted to tell their own. That is so true. Oh, and we meet Anna too. And this part is about Anna. He began to realize that she was the first and last person to whom he would never have to explain anything. She knew that he wore his life on his skin, that his biography was written in his flesh and on his bones. She would never ask him why he wouldn't wear short sleeves, even in the steamiest of weather, or why he didn't like to be touched, or more important, what had happened to his legs or back. She knew already. Around her, he had felt none of the constant anxiety nor watchfulness that he seemed condemned to feel around everyone else. The vigilance was exhausting, but it eventually became simply a part of life, a habit, like good posture. Here's the last one. The only trick of friendship, I think, is to find people who are better than you are. Not smarter, not cooler, but kinder, more generous, and more forgiving. And then to appreciate them for what they can teach you, and to try to listen to them when they tell you something about yourself, no matter how bad or good it might be, and to trust them, which is the hardest thing of all, but the best as well. Anya has a way with words, doesn't she? And she knows how to use words to stab you in the heart and twist. I'm going to try to read the next section, which is Vanities, today. But yeah, Vanities. It is now Wednesday night. I finished Vanities last night, but I just haven't updated yet. And I haven't read today yet, even though it is after midnight. But I thought I would update you on my thoughts on Vanities. This is a pretty short section. It's about 80 pages, so I think that's the shortest section. That's not true, it is not the shortest section, but it's one of the shortest. This section, there's 3 chapters in each big chapter, and the first one focuses on Willem, the second focuses on Jude, and the third focuses on JB. Unfortunately, my boy Malcolm did not get a section, but there's only 3, there's always 3 chapters in a section, I have noticed, so that's unfortunate. I love Malcolm. We look further into each of their lives a bit, but for me, this section is about friendship. I mean, like, you can say this whole book is about friendship, but the running theme in this section for me was friendship. I used quite a few green tabs. There's this really amazing quote about friendship. It might be my favorite quote in the book. I don't know. It's one of my favorite quotes in this book. It is amazing. Why wasn't friendship as good as a relationship? Why wasn't it even better? It was 2 people who remained together, day after day, bound not by sex, or physical attraction, or money, or children, or property, but only by the shared agreement to keep going, the mutual dedication to a union that could never be codified. Friendship was witnessing another's slow drips of miseries, and long bouts of boredom, and occasional triumphs. It was feeling honored by the privilege of getting to be present for another person's most dismal moments, and knowing that you could be dismal around him in return. It's just amazing. It's utterly amazing. This next line is one that stuck out to me the first time around, and it sticks out to me again, and it's something that I think about a lot. "Are you happy?" he once asked Jude. They must have been drunk. "I don't think happiness is for me," Jude had said at last, as if Willem had been offering him a dish he didn't want to eat. "But it's for you, Willem." I don't think happiness is for me. That line just, it pierces your heart. It doesn't punch you in the gut, it pierces through your heart. It's so raw. I don't think happiness is for me. As if Willem had been offering him a dish he didn't want to eat. I don't think it's for me. Wow. I kind of want to talk about a specific moment here that I think is really interesting, but there's spoilers. So I'll put a little thing up You can just skip or mute. One of the most interesting relationships in this book for me is the friendship and not friendship between Jude and JB. You know, sometimes it's really great between them, and sometimes they are at odds. You know, it's mostly because of JB. He's such an interesting character. There are times when I love him, and there are times when I hate him. And he frustrates me because I see the good in him, but man, does he says and does the wrong thing all the time. And sometimes things that he says or does in relation to Jude are just unforgivable, and that causes a strain on their relationship, obviously. There's this push and pull between them it's interesting to see the evolution, especially knowing what happens later on with their friendship. But right now, in this part, when JB's really going through his drug addiction, and there's all this stuff with Jackson, and he is scared of Jackson. He is constantly manipulated by him, and he's just having a really hard time with his addiction, and Jude is there for him. Even though Jude has had some difficulties with his friendship with JB because of JB doing the paintings of Jude and not always asking for his permission, he's there for him. No question. I think it's a reflection of Jude's own issues. I think particularly with self-harm, because Jude understands doing something habitually because you can't help it, because it's just instinct, or you don't even think about it. It just happens, and it happens again and again and again, and you don't want to do it, but you just can't help it. I think maybe I don't know, maybe that's not what is going on here, but like that's what I've interpreted it, or that's kind of like a viewpoint I see. Jude understands, and he's the only one of those four that understands. And then of course the end of this section, JB does the thing that is most unforgivable, and their friendship can never be the same. And it's so hard to read. It's like, oh, I understand. I want to defend JB because I know that he's not in the right place, and he's under the influence of drugs. He's under the influence of addiction. He's under the influence of Jackson. He doesn't really think before he says and does things. When he's feeling cornered, he lashes out with cruelty. So I'm like, oh, JB. But then the other hand, I'm like, dude, that was really fucked up. That was really fucked up. And I understand Jude for never being able to see him in the same way, never being able to trust him in the same way. And we get into this more in the next section. I remember the friendship can never quite be the same, because he's constantly thinking, this is how JB sees me. And it's his worst fears come true. Maybe not his worst fears, some of his worst fears come true. People seeing him in a way that he doesn't want to be seen. Also, I really love Andy. I don't think I appreciated Andy enough the first time I read this. Andy is the one that like will give it to Jude, no nonsense, and he does it because he cares, and because he's quite honestly the only one that really in Jude's life at this moment in time, he is the only one that knows his past and what's going on now, because he's his doctor. He's the one that treats him. And I really love the fact that, you know, he's an orthopedic doctor, so he wouldn't normally treat Jude. It's only because Jude had him before, and that's the only doctor that he's the only person that he trusts. I just think that's a really interesting detail. I think it's a really important detail. And like, just reading in this section about Andy making them have midnight calls. There's no way I'm gonna be getting through the next part by tonight. It's after midnight. But I'll try to read some. Goddamn. I am not ready. I am not prepared. The next section is the axiom of equality, and damn, is there some hard stuff in this one. Wish me luck, friends. Wish me luck. I'm gonna talk about spoilers for a second. Oh my fucking god. There's this part that just took me so off guard. After the wedding that the four of them went to, you know, things aren't the same anymore. And Willem asks Jude how that was for him having to deal with that. And here, let me just read this. Okay, he says, smiling back at him. He thinks these meetings with JB are even harder for Willem than they are for him. You? Okay, Willem said. His girlfriend drives up to the curb. They're staying at a hotel. I'll call you tomorrow, alright? Back in Cambridge, he lets himself into the silent house and walks as softly as he can back to his bathroom, where he prizes his bag from beneath the loose tiles near the toilet and cuts himself until he feels absolutely empty, holding his arms out over the bathtub, watching the porcelain stain itself crimson. The shift from conversation and the casualness of the words is brutal. It's absolutely fucking brutal. When I just read that, it sent a shockwave through my core. I thought I had to share. I am so fucking angry right now. So we've met Caleb, and if you've read the book, you know how fucking horrible he is. I want to punch this man so hard. I want to do more than punch him. He infuriates me so much. And I hate seeing how he treats Jude. I just read the part where he sees Jude in his wheelchair for the first time, and he does not like that, to say the very least, and the way that it affects Jude fucking destroys me. I hate this man so much. Oh my god. This fucking book. It happened. I'm crying. X equals X. That's all I can say. My poor baby Jude. I'm so sorry. I cried so much when I first read this, and there are parts that I've been rereading that I definitely cried at, and I've just felt so numb that I haven't been able to cry, and I wondered, am I actually gonna cry rereading this, or is it because I already know that what happens, that it won't happen, I won't cry, I'll just be numb the whole time. But look at me. I'm crying. Tears are streaming down my face as we speak. I should have known better. I should have known better. Yeah, I'm numb. But I'm also crying because that shit hurts. I'll update you more later. Just read the first sentence of the 3rd chapter in this section. We're talking about Brother Luke. I don't know if I can do it, folks. I don't know if I can do it, but I need to finish this chapter tonight. But I don't know if I have the strength to read this part tonight. I think I have to. I don't have words. Brother Luke is the most atrocious there is. I don't think that I can fully articulate the emotions that I feel reading the Axiom of Equality in general, but especially there's something about the third section, because the third section really gets into the things that happened to Jude, at least on Brother Luke's part. It's excruciating to read. I don't think there are words to articulate the emotions that I am feeling. I don't think words would do it justice. Because what words do you even use to describe this? I just wish I could take Jude's pain away. I'm so tired. It's Friday, January 7th. I finished the Axiom of Equality last night at like 2 in the morning. That section wrecks me. Let me show you just how much I tabbed in this section. Bitch, I went crazy. And part of it is that I purchased a lot more of these Post-its, and so I think I let it get to my head, and I had a little bit too much fun with Post-it notes, not with reading it, because there's nothing fun about the Axiom of Equality at all. This is the section that really gets into Jude's backstory, and I mean really gets into it, and oh my god, Hanya does not hold back. I know there's more coming. I know there is still trauma to expose that we have not read about yet. Trust me, I know. But what we did read about fucking hell. Anyway, let me see if I can find some quotes that stood out to me. Oh. You want to hear a line that absolutely breaks me? Breaks my soul? Not having sex. It was one of the best things about being an adult. For Jude, it was a part of childhood. And so now that he has the choice, the best part of adulthood is not having sex. It fucking breaks me. This is also pretty sad. To wish for companionship along with everything else he has seems a kind of greed, a gross entitlement. Jude, if you want companionship, you deserve it. And with someone in particular. You know who I'm talking about. You guys know who I'm talking about. If you know, you know. Oh, this? He often feels as if the apartment is a falsehood. It suggests that the person within it is someone open and vital and generous with his answers. And he, of course, is not that person. Lisbonard Street, with its half-obscured alcoves and dark warrens and walls that had been painted over so many times that you could feel ridges and blisters where moths and bugs had been entombed in its layers, was a much more accurate reflection of who he is. Oh, Hanya, I see you. The imagery is insane. I have a line here directed to Caleb where I say, I fucking hate you. That's a fun tab. X equals X. You know, the axiom of equality, X equals X. I have wanted that as a tattoo, to be my first tattoo for so long. Like, right on my wrist, X equals X. Because I'm like, A Little Life is one of my favorite books. I want something to symbolize that, and that's a lot of people get tattoos of X equals X, you know, very symbolic. Then I read this and remembered just how horrible and sad the affiliation of X equals X is with this book, like with the moment that it's brought up. I don't know, I just did not think it through that much. There's some quotes that I marked, but the section that they're in are just too hard to talk about, so I'm not. Oh, but this, I can mention this in vagueness. When the title is dropped, that moment that the title of the book is dropped, this is what my sticky note says. Fuck you for this, Hanya. It's too much. I remember when I first read it and I saw that, I was like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. This is what the title is? This is where the title comes from? It obliterated me. But next we go on to the happy years. It's like the longest section of the book. It's midnight, so I don't know how far I'll get into it tonight. I have to finish this book tomorrow, though, is the thing, because I go back to college on Sunday. I have to finish this book tomorrow. So I want to try to get as much done tonight as I can. We'll see how much that is. The happy years. I remember what happens at the end of that chapter. I remember, and I'm not looking forward to it. There are some happy things in this section, though. There's one thing in particular I'm very much looking forward to reading. And then there's one thing in particular I'm very much not looking forward to reading. I mean, there's several things I'm not looking forward to reading, but there's one. That thing at the end. You know what I'm talking about. It is 2 in the morning, and I just finished the first chapter in The Happy Years, and I think this might be my favorite part of the book because of a certain something that happens that is just wonderful. Okay, I have to mention it. Willem and Jude getting together. I just love it. I love them. Yeah. Hi, it's like 9 on January 8th, which is Saturday. I leave for college tomorrow. I need to finish this book tonight, and I still have like 200 pages left. I'm on page 608, so I'm still in chapter 2 of The Happy Years. I have so many emotions. In this chapter, there's some rough stuff, and Jude and Willem get in a fight like they've never fought before, and it's really sad. And then they reconcile, and the whole like closet scene, it sticks in my mind so much. It stuck in my mind the first time I read it, and it definitely is rereading it. They just spend like days lying in that closet talking about Jude's history, and that's where I left off. Jude's about to continue his story, and this time it's stuff that we don't know yet. Well, obviously I know because I read it before, and so I'm not looking forward to it. And it's like, I want to go downstairs and like get out of my room and read, and like, you know, sit on the couch downstairs and read. Go get hot chocolate downstairs and read. But it's like, dude, when you read this book, you can't be around other people. And you can't just like, oh, I'm just gonna like have a hot chocolate moment while I read A Little Life. Oh, I'm just gonna like sit on the couch and chill with my parents right next to me while I read A Little Life. No, and the kind of stuff that I'm about to read is not stuff you read with other people around you, and I'll probably cry. So in my room I might bring hot chocolate to me. Up here, I don't know if I can drink hot chocolate while reading this part though. I might just try to read this part and then I'll get hot chocolate. Because this part's rough. It's rough. Let's keep going. So, the hot chocolate has been delivered to me, and now I will have to read this part drinking hot chocolate. So, the decision was made for me. But look at this hot chocolate. Okay, I finished chapter 2. Read all the stuff about Dr. Trailer. Yeah, and we find out the car accident. But I'm gonna keep plugging along. Chapter 3 of the Happy Years. The Happy Years is a trek, man. It is the longest section. And let me tell you, they're not all happy. In fact, most of it's not happy. But I know why it's called the Happy Years, because there is a very happy thing. And I would say that it's probably the best years of Jude's life. Well, yeah. But also, no. I mean, they're not great. You know, that's too complicated of a statement. And we're not gonna analyze it. We're just gonna keep reading. I don't know if you can see it, but I teared up at something. And it was something happy. Okay, bit of a spoiler. When Willem wins that award, and in his acceptance speech, he says, "And finally, and most important, Jude St. Francis, my best friend and the love of my life, for everything." And Jude started to cry. Or he had to stop himself from crying. A little happy moment there. As you can probably guess, I finished the Happy Years. Page 712, man. It hits you out of nowhere. Fucking nowhere. When I read this page, the last page in this section, when I read it the first time, I was shell-shocked. Never did I expect this to happen. Never. The next section, Dear Comrade, is the hardest section for me, in my opinion. I cried the most reading this. There are tear marks on some of the pages. I sobbed. Snot and tears running down my face. Like I had to get tissues or else it would just keep dripping onto the page. But I have to keep reading. You read that and you're like, well, fuck, I have to read the next part. Are you kidding me? And then you just cry. I'm gonna talk about spoilers now because I have to. Willem, Malcolm, and Sophie get in a car accident and die. Who saw that coming? Absolutely fucking no one. It's not even just Willem, it's also Malcolm. And okay, yes, Sophie, but I'm sorry, girl, but like you're not important in this situation. And then what makes Dear Comrade so hard to read is the aftermath of that. And the grief, and especially Jude dealing with Willem's death. So, let's go, I guess. Before I can read Dear Comrade, I have to talk about my thoughts of the happy years, per usual. For me, the happy years was about Jude and Willem's relationship and them becoming a couple. It wasn't all happy, but I love it so much, and it makes so much sense, especially rereading. Like, I've been tapping things where I'm like, oh, this hints at them being together. But the ending destroyed me, obviously. I think I just want to talk about some quotes that I like, and then we'll move on. Oh, this is a fun one. But when it was over, there was the same shame, the same nausea, the same desire to hurt himself, to scoop out his insides and hurl them against the wall with a bloody thwack. Thwack? Thwack. Holy hell. Fuck, Hanya. Okay. I like this one. This one's happier. Do you remember the time you told me you were afraid that you were a series of nasty surprises for me? He asks him. And Jude nods, slightly. You aren't, he tells him. You aren't. But being with you is like being in this fantastic landscape. He continues slowly. You think it's one thing, a forest, and then suddenly it changes, and it's a meadow, or a jungle, or cliffs of ice, and they're all beautiful, but they're strange as well. And you don't have a map, and you don't understand how you got from one terrain to the next so abruptly, and you don't know when the next transition will arrive, and you don't have any of the equipment you need. So you keep walking through, and trying to adjust as you go. You don't really know what you're doing, and often you make mistakes, bad mistakes. That's sometimes what it feels like. That is so beautiful. And then this part's funny. They're silent. So basically, Jude says at last, basically you're saying I'm New Zealand. I like this too. Wasn't friendship its own miracle? The finding of another person who made the entire lonely world seem somehow less lonely. The quotes on friendship in this book are some of the best I've read. I adore this quote. I adore this. You're Jude St. Francis. You're my oldest, dearest friend. You're the son of Harold Stein and Julia Altman. You're the friend of Malcolm Irvine, or John Baptiste Marion, of Richard Goldfarb, Andy Contractor, of Lucian Voigt, of Citizen von Strauten, of Rhodes Aerosmith, of Elijah Cosma, of Phaedra de los Santos, of the Henry Youngs. You're a New Yorker. You live in Soho. You volunteer for an arts organization. You volunteer for a food kitchen. You're a swimmer. You're a baker. You're a cook. You're a reader. You have a beautiful voice, though you never sing anymore. You're an excellent pianist. You're an art collector. You write me lovely messages when I'm away. You're patient. You're generous. You're the best listener I know. You're the smartest person I know, in every way. You're the bravest person I know, in every way. You're a lawyer. You're the chair of the litigation department at Rosen Pritchard and Klein. You love your job. You work hard at it. You're a mathematician. You're a logician. You've tried to teach me again and again. You were treated horribly. You came out on the other end. You were always you. Oh. Here's the last one of this section that I marked. He had looked at Jude then, and had felt the same sensation he sometimes did when he really thought of Jude, and what his life had been. A sadness, he might have called it, but it wasn't a pitying sadness. It was a larger sadness, one that seemed to encompass all the poor, striving people, billions he didn't know, all living their lives. Sadness that mingled with the wonder and awe at how hard humans everywhere tried to live, even when their days were so very difficult, even when their circumstances were so wretched. Life is so sad, he would think in those moments. It's so sad, and yet we all do it. We all cling to it. We all search for something to give us solace. Okay. I'm gonna read. It's 2 in the morning. And I'm gonna read and I'm gonna cry. See you on the other side. I finished Dear Comrade. So many tears. So many tears. I think I'm just gonna go on and read Lisbon Art Street, which is the last section, and it's really short, and finish up. I'm sad. I'm really sad. I finished it. It's like 4 in the morning at this point. I think I'll talk about my thoughts of Dear Comrade and Lisbon Art Street, but I'll save my overall thoughts for tomorrow when I'm less tired and less distraught. Look at these tabs. I've never tapped a book like this. Ever. So, Dear Comrade, can you see these tear marks from the first time I read it? Literally embedded in the pages. They're still there. Tear marks are there forever. Look at this. I don't know if that's a snot mark or a tear mark. Dear Comrade follows Willem and Malcolm's deaths and everyone dealing with the aftermath of that and grieving that, and primarily Jude grieving Willem's death, and it breaks him. It breaks him. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry again. It's the saddest part of the book for me. Jude just wants to die. That's just me. This whole book has been about him dealing with his past trauma and willing himself to live. But he just wants to die. Here's a quote I really like. Now as he lies in bed, he hears the old lies murmur to him. I have become lost to the world, he sings quietly, in which I otherwise wasted so much time. He wants to die, but the people that are left in his life fight against that. Harold, Andy, JB, Richard, and they win for a while until we get to Lisbon Art Street. This Lisbon Art Street is Harold's last letter to Willem. And in the end, Jude kills himself. I'm gonna cry again. I feel really raw right now. Maybe it's not best to talk about it right now. Let me read this quote though. It isn't only that he died, or how he died. It is what he died believing. So I try to be kind to everything I see, and in everything I see him. I think I'm gonna go to bed now and get some sleep. And I will close this out tomorrow. Hello. It is the morning. I have to make this quick because I have to get ready to leave for college. But, some closing thoughts. I love this book so much. It is the most devastating, heartbreaking, hard-to-read piece of literature I have ever read and probably will ever read. This book just... There's something about this book, I mean, there's many things about this book that just profoundly affect me. It's the writing, it's the characters, it's the way that you care for the characters like family, and something happens to them that just punches you in the gut. No, it doesn't punch you in the gut. It takes a sword and pierces you. Not in the gut, in the heart. Because you care about the characters so much. If there's one thing I would complain, or that I just personally want, I wanted more of Malcolm and JB. Part of what this book is pitched as is the friendship between the four of them, and that is a huge part of this story. But there are chunks of time when we don't hear about Malcolm or JB. Honestly, you get to a certain point in the book and we don't really follow their stories anymore. They're just kind of mentioned, or they might be in the scene, but like the progression of their stories halts at a certain point, and I don't like that. I want more of them, especially Malcolm. I feel like there's one thing that always kind of confused me. In the beginning, Malcolm kind of might think that he might be gay. He might like guys. There's even a part where he thinks that he might be in love with Willem. Maybe it's just confusion. I don't know. But then we just drop it. And, he's with Sophie. And we never mention it again. And I'm like, I don't know. I really wish we got more of them. But that's basically my only complaint. And that's just a personal thing. I just wish we got more about them. They're given so much development in the earlier part of the story, and then nothing. Well, not nothing, but not a lot. I basically discussed all of the thoughts that I had throughout this whole vlog. It's a lot of footage. Okay, finally, hopefully I won't be disturbed. I'm so glad that I reread this and I took the time to analyze it more. As you can see, tapped it to bits. A Little Life is a hard one. It's painful. It's devastating, but it is so worth it. I can't express how glad I am to have read this book and to have reread it. And I think that this will forever remain one of my top books for life. This is one of those books. You read this and it'll be in you for life. I just love it so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for going on this trip with me. Thank you for watching me cry. Thank you for watching me talk about all my thoughts on this book ad nauseum. Be kind to yourself, friends. Goodbye. Oh my god, I almost forgot to show you guys my A Little Life tote bag. It's kind of full. Oh fuck, I also have a shirt. I'm not wearing the shirt. My Little Life shirt. I saw Anthony from Queer Eye wear a shirt like this and I was like, I have to have it. And then I saw this print that's kind of like the UK edition of the book, which, oh my god, I want that edition. With like, I think this would probably be like Lisbon Art Street, kind of. Perhaps. Like in the lettering. Okay. Bye now.